how do we put that video together? Well, we have someone here very knowledgeable this evening. In fact, he helped us create our own Nerdmasters video, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the nuts and bolts of how that's done. So for this evening, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our next presenter, Mr. Marvin Wiley, who's going to tell us about crafting a club promo video. And this is going to come in two parts. You're about to hear part one. Marvin?
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Yes, my name is Marvin Wiley Jr., and I'm going to start by telling a little bit about myself and kind of how I started to dive into video, because it really just started to morph into a passion that I didn't really know would find me ever, really. And it actually started from Toastmasters, which is quite fascinating, because I started actually creating tutorial videos for my club. I was creating videos such as like how to navigate through Club Central, just some things throughout our Toastmasters club that I felt might be helpful to have some visuals. And that's how I started to dabble into doing some voice recording. And I didn't really do editing at first. I just basically just try to speak in one go as good as I could, which as a person who studies wasn't necessarily the easiest thing, but I typically didn't stutter much when I talked to myself, so it wasn't too bad, really. But that's basically how I started, was doing tutorial videos. And I didn't open up an editing software such as, like, right now what I use, it's called DaVinci Resolve. I didn't open up and start using that, and it was around 2018 where I first started to dive into editing videos and moving clips around. But for me, it was actually kind of daunting, especially opening up DaVinci Resolve. There's so many different things on it. You have like the color tab, you have Fairlight, you have the editing tab, you have the delivery tab, you have all these things, all these buttons, all these different effects. And so my very first thing that I wanted to do when I first started editing is I just wanted to be able to take a clip and just cut it. And so just cut it in half and see if I can move the clip around. So that's what I believe the key is to start with keeping it simple and just start where you are, and then you'll just work your way through. And then over time, you'll probably be addicted to it like I am right now. And you'll just keep seeing how you can make it better and how you can make it better. And then it just morph, and hopefully you don't end up buying so much stuff like I bought, though, hopefully, but you never know. You never know what might happen. Yeah, because it can all happen from Toastmasters. That's the Toastmaster curse. I don't know, but and yeah. So, but James talked greatly about the why and the why in your message. That's super important, because that's essentially the starting point when you look at creating a video. Is you really want to figure out the core purpose of the video and why you're creating it, who you're creating the video for specifically, because that's going to help to inspire you to formulate and create your message, so that it can best resonate with your audience. And another thing to keep in mind too is who's going to be into the video as well. So you want to gather all the people that are going to be a part of the video, and think about where that video is going to be posted. When you think about where it's going to be posted, you have different platforms, and there's different resolutions of video, which basically means, such as the typical resolution will be 1920 by 1080. That's what we see most of the time, the regular HD. That's the most common that you would see on YouTube. If you put that resolution on, say, Instagram, it's not necessarily going to look as great. And also with Facebook as well, because with Facebook oftentimes likes videos that are a square shape, which is 1880 by 1880, or yeah, 1880 by 1880, and as well as Instagram likes to be in a square shape as well, which would be 1080 by 1350. And later on, I'll post some links where you'll be able to see some articles that dive deeper into the various different resolutions. But that's basically the core message that I wanted to relay, is that the different social media platforms, they have different resolutions that fit best, and essentially it'll just fill up the screen and it'll look the best based off of the platform that you're posting on. So that's something certainly to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is to think about the style in which you want to create the video. And James talked about the script method. You can also kind of do like more of an interview style method, which can be a little bit more involved as far as to create, because the more people that you have to piece together different clips where people are saying different things, the more creative that you have to be to try to piece it all together so it all flows nice and naturally. And real quick here, I'm going to show an example here. So let's dive into my favorite place in the world, DaVinci Resolve. and I'm going to go, this is actually what I'm working on right now. This is a club promo video. This was at Word Weavers. Not this, but it's loading. It'll pop up in a couple of seconds. But this is, and I'll briefly walk through essentially the process that I would go through to try to put this together. So it all starts with one whole clip. And then what I will look to do is I will look to group them. So if you go towards the end of the timeline, this is when I identify the key pieces that I wanted to use. So the first thing I did is I went through the clip through each person, and they're all 2-minute table topics. So I went through each person that was speaking, and I cut up the various different key points that I noticed. And then I analyzed from each person, which I just kind of thought which piece of what they said really stands out. And I went through all of them and to really identify where the video should start. And so which person said perhaps the most impactful thing that'll really hopefully capture the audience's attention. And then you want to do the same thing to the end as well. You want to identify who said something that will be a perfect closing for the end of the video. And then in the middle, you'll piece it together and have it flow. And I'll play in and this is still kind of a work in progress, because this is kind of like it is a puzzle piece. So here.
I joined Toastmasters for better communicational skills and mentoring.
To get better at job interviews.
I wanted to develop my public speaking and leadership skills.
I joined Toastmasters almost exactly 8 years ago.
And I watched everybody and how the process was together. And I absolutely loved it. But I went to my car and I cried. For 20 minutes, I couldn't even drive. I was a wreck. I have no idea why. So I proceeded back to the same Toastmaster, and the same thing happened again. It was just too big of a class for me.
The meeting rules actually develop and maintain a variety of skills like listening, time management, public speaking.
I had this fear of public speaking. I mean, terrible fear.
I went to a bank.
Yeah, so that's kind of like a sample idea of how you can kind of piece the videos together. You can find music as well that you can feel like will go with the video. And I'm still really experimenting with the music that I might be using, and I'll typically use sound effects. I'm trying to. I like this stuff so much. But the whole goal is to keep or to focus on the basics and to keep it simple when you're creating the video. And so I'm showing this here to show an example of, this is kind of like more of like an interview style of the method of creating the video. And then in this case, I would like to color code them so it's easier to see where they're all are fitting in place. And now I'm going to show an example of the style in which James was referring to with the script. Now, this video is my favorite because it's the easiest that you can create, because once you have everybody that is saying the exact same thing, you can easily just line up all the clips and you know exactly what's being said. So you just cut and you just piece it together, and it's a much easier puzzle. You already know what the end result is going to be based off of the script. And this is the example I did with WSN, where we went along with the script, and I can play a little bit of it.
This is Tom Scharstein.
Trisha Hettinger from the World Stuttering Network.
Our mission is to bring together the stuttering support group leaders of the world.
Yeah, it's not linking all the clips. I think it's not linking mine.
We aren't affiliated with any stuttering support group organization, yet we support all.
No donations needed or accepted. We don't need money, only effort and belief.
So that's kind of the whole flow of the video. Is when you're going with the script, you'll be able to align all the clips on your timeline, and then you'll be able to cut them up accordingly and identify each piece that stands out the most as far as who said what, that you feel like will resonate the most, and then that way you will be able to create your promo video. So those are the examples and the differences between the various different styles of videos. So the first thing, of course, is to figure out who the audience is. You want to figure out where you're going to be posting the video. You want to identify if it's going to be a script or interview style. And then from there, you can film it in a couple of different ways. So you can film it on your smartphone, or you can also film it on Zoom, which sometimes can be easier because a lot of people are now familiar with using Zoom. And it's not necessarily the best quality video, but it could be the easiest for a lot of people to record. And even more so, like what is going to happen towards the end of today is that you can do it in groups, because you can have your whole club be on the Zoom call, and you can just go one by one and they can read off the script. And then you can easily get all of that footage for the video at the end of your Toastmasters Club meeting through Zoom. So you can keep it very simple in that way. Now, let's see, where is my timer? Is it okay? Now, when it comes to your choice in editing software, the software I love to use is DaVinci Resolve, and there's another software that I'm going to show as well. It's called OpenShot Video Editor. That's the one that John had recommended. I've been taking a look at it, and it does look quite simple to use. So I'm going to show that as well. I wanted to show DaVinci Resolve first, so then that way when I show the OpenShot Video Editor, it's going to look a lot easier. Yeah, once you go from the most complicated, go to the easiest. That's kind of the whole psychology that I'm trying to go with. But now I just lost my train of thought. But one thing you want to think about when it comes to the editing, your choice in editing software, is where you want to go with editing. Like, do you see yourself wanting to dive deeper into it? Or do you see yourself just wanting it to do something simple, just to, like, you don't want it to be too involved in editing, like you don't see yourself wanting to really expand upon your editing skills? Then using something like OpenShot Video Editor will be a better option. But if you wanted something to grow into, then in that case, I would more so recommend using something like DaVinci Resolve, or a more professional editing software like Final Cut Pro or Premiere or something like that, because you'll be able to do so much more. So you can start small. You don't have to use all the various different tools that are available. You can start very, very small, start at the very beginning, and you can work your way up. And really quick here, I'm going to demonstrate the very first video that I had ever created on DaVinci Resolve, which is very exciting. And so this was when I was saying that I just wanted to figure out how I could cut videos together. This was my icebreaker speech no, not my icebreaker speech, but this is my 10th speech. This is a 10th speech in my competent communicator manual. This was a long time ago. This is like in 2013. And this was at Success Speaks Toastmasters Club over at our old location. So my objective here was I just wanted to take my speech and just break it up and just to try to put together a little highlight reel. So nothing too extreme. I didn't add any music to it. I just wanted to figure out how do I cut a clip. So so what I ended up doing is I ended up going on YouTube and also lynda.com, which is now linkedinlearning.com. You can access a lot of free editing software if you have a library card, which is very, very useful. So I certainly took advantage of that. And that's in Pierce County. I'm not sure if it's available in other counties, but it could very well be. But I know for sure in Pierce County, if you have a library card, you just go to the Pierce County Library website and you click on LinkedIn Learning, and then you'll be able to access actually all kinds of courses, really. But they have a lot of video production, editing courses on all kinds of editing software, and they have DaVinci Resolve as one of the options. And yeah, so so the first thing was just to figure out how to cut a clip, and that will be the blade tool. So the blade tool is one of the key tools that you'll be using. So no matter which editing software that you were to use, you would see something that would be related to the blade tool. So once I click on the blade tool and I hover over the clip, I can see that there's like a little red line that's over it. And if I do a left click, then it cuts. So then that's when I realized, oh, that's how I can cut a clip. And then when you click the arrow back and you click on the clip, then you're able to move the clip around. You can move it wherever you want. Yeah, so when you look at the timeline, you'll see two tracks. You're going to see a video track here, and you're going to see the audio track. The audio or these waveforms, so these lines, like the waves, that's the audio. And that's very useful because then that way you know where the audio is going to be starting from. So it's like right here, like from this point to this point, there's no audio. So the audio is starting right when it's starting to peak right there. So then if I wanted a cleaner cut, because when I first did this, I didn't really know how to make a really clean cut, because when you play this here, it's not going to be necessarily clean. I sit face to face. I'm not even sure if I'm sharing my screen or sharing my sound. Yeah, I am. Cool. To the giant electronic box. But life is like a conveyor belt in reverse. Because if you cower in fear and never take the next step, you'll move back on the belt automatically. And it was all because of, you see like those large spaces, but you can actually cut those out by trimming it to the wave form, which I didn't really know at that time, so then you can just delete that and move that over, and then it will sound much better. You move back on the belt automatically. And it was all because of, now it will flow much better in that way. And so that's why I love belt, edit to the waveform. And now we can go ahead and take a break.
Game over.